Hello everyone. I'm Donna. Today I'm here with a very interesting story. There are some stories that entertain us. And then there are stories that stay with us long after the final page. This is one of those stories. Today, we're diving into the haunting and emotional world of Beloved, a story about memory, trauma, motherhood, guilt, freedom, and the ghosts people carry even after escaping the past. Set after the American Civil War, the story follows Sethe, a formerly enslaved woman trying to build a life with her daughter in a house haunted by something terrifying. But the ghost inside the house may not be the most dangerous thing in her life. Because some memories refuse to stay buried. And some pain follows people forever. This is Beloved. The story begins in Cincinnati, Ohio, in a house known simply as 124. Not 124, Bluestone Road. Not a home. Not a sanctuary. Just 124. The house feels alive. Heavy. Angry. Almost breathing. Everyone in the neighborhood knows something is wrong with it. Furniture moves on its own. Strange sounds echo through the rooms. Plates shatter. The air itself feels hostile. And the people inside the house have learned to live with it. Sethe lives there with her youngest daughter, Denver. The two exist in near isolation. Neighbors avoid them. Visitors rarely stay long. Even the sons who once lived there ran away years ago because the haunting became unbearable. But Sethe stays. Because after everything she survived, fear no longer shocks her. She has already seen the worst humanity can offer. The ghost in the house is not just supernatural. It represents memory. The kind of memory that claws at the walls of your mind. The kind that never allows peace. Sethe escaped slavery years ago. But emotionally, she never truly escaped. Every room in 124 carries traces of her past. And Denver, who grew up surrounded by silence and fear, barely understands the world outside the house. She depends almost entirely on her mother. Loneliness has become normal for them. Then one day, someone arrives. A man named Paul D. And with his arrival, the buried past begins to wake up. Paul D. is not a stranger. He knew Sethe years earlier on a plantation called Sweet Home. The name sounds gentle. Almost comforting. But it was anything except comfort. Sweet Home was a plantation in Kentucky where enslaved people were treated slightly better than on neighboring plantations. And that tiny difference created an illusion. The enslaved men there were allowed to speak more freely. Allowed to carry guns. Allowed to think of themselves as men. But slavery wrapped in kindness is still slavery. Chains remain chains. Paul D. arrives carrying his own emotional scars. He has wandered for years after the Civil War, never finding stability. Never finding peace. Like Sethe, he learned how to survive by locking his pain deep inside himself. When he enters 124, the ghost reacts violently. The house shakes. Furniture crashes. A storm of rage erupts through the rooms. Paul D. confronts the spirit directly. And somehow, the haunting seems to stop. For the first time in years, the house becomes quiet. And suddenly, there is hope. Paul D. begins imagining a future. A normal life. A family. Sethe allows herself to feel warmth again. Denver becomes uneasy. Because the ghost was familiar. Loneliness was familiar. Change feels dangerous. Still, for a brief moment, the story softens. The characters laugh. Talk. Share meals. They try to build something human out of broken pieces. But Beloved is not a story that allows peace easily. The past is still coming. And it arrives in human form. One day, after returning from a carnival, Sethe, Denver, and Paul D. discover a young woman sitting near the house. She appears exhausted. Fragile. Dressed strangely. Almost as if she emerged from another world. When asked her name, she says only one word. Beloved. The name strikes Sethe immediately. Because years earlier, she had that exact word engraved on her dead daughter's tombstone. Beloved. The girl is mysterious. She speaks oddly. Acts childlike at times. And seems deeply attached to Sethe almost immediately. Denver becomes fascinated with her. Paul D. becomes suspicious. But Sethe feels something far more powerful. Recognition. As Beloved settles into the house, strange things begin happening. The boundaries between reality and memory start collapsing. Beloved seems to know impossible details about Sethe's past. She asks questions no stranger should know to ask. She stares at Sethe with a hunger that feels emotional rather than physical. It slowly becomes clear that Beloved may not be an ordinary person at all. She may be the physical manifestation of Sethe's dead child. Or perhaps she represents every painful memory Sethe tried to bury. The genius of the story lies in this ambiguity. Beloved is both a character and a symbol. She is grief. She is trauma. She is history refusing to disappear. And once she enters the house, everyone begins unraveling. To understand Sethe, we must return to Sweet Home. Years earlier, Sethe was enslaved there under a man called Mr. Garner. Compared to other enslavers, he behaved with relative softness. But the illusion ended after his death. A new man arrived. Known only as schoolteacher. And under him, Sweet Home transformed into horror. Schoolteacher views enslaved people as animals. Not metaphorically. Literally. He measures them. Studies them. Catalogues them like livestock. He teaches his nephews to observe Sethe's human traits alongside her supposed animal traits. The cruelty becomes scientific. Cold. Emotionless. And one of the story's most devastating moments occurs when Sethe is assaulted by schoolteacher's nephews. They steal her breast milk. That detail becomes central because the milk represented motherhood. The ability to nourish her children. To Sethe, the violation is not only physical. It is spiritual. Afterward, she is beaten so brutally that scars form across her back. The scars resemble a tree. A horrifying symbol. Pain transformed into something permanent. Something living. Eventually, Sethe decides she must escape. Not just for herself. But for her children. Because slavery threatens more than freedom. It destroys identity. Family. Memory. Love itself. And Sethe reaches a terrifying conclusion. Death may be kinder than slavery. That belief shapes everything that follows. Sethe escapes while pregnant. Alone. Injured. Hunted. The journey north becomes almost mythic in its difficulty. At one point, she collapses from exhaustion. And a poor white girl named Amy Denver helps her. Amy massages Sethe's swollen feet. Treats her wounds. And helps deliver Sethe's baby beside a river. That child becomes Denver. The moment matters because it represents one of the rare acts of compassion in the story. A brief glimpse of humanity inside a brutal world. Eventually, Sethe reaches Ohio. Freedom. Or what she hopes is freedom. For 28 days, she experiences something close to happiness. She lives with her children. Works. Sleeps without chains. Breathes. Those 28 days become sacred in her memory. Because they were the only days she truly felt ownership over her own life. Then schoolteacher arrives. He comes to reclaim her and her children. And in that instant, Sethe makes the most horrifying decision of her life. When schoolteacher finds her, Sethe panics. She believes her children will be dragged back into slavery. She remembers Sweet Home. The violence. The humiliation. The destruction of human dignity. And she decides she would rather kill her children than allow them to suffer that fate. In a shed behind the house, she attempts to kill them all. One child dies. A baby girl. The others survive. This is the emotional center of Beloved. The act is horrifying. And yet Morrison forces readers to confront the world that produced it. What kind of society creates a mother who believes murder is mercy? Sethe's action cannot be separated from slavery itself. The institution twisted love into terror. Motherhood into desperation. Protection into violence. The community never fully forgives Sethe. Neither does she forgive herself. And now, years later, Beloved has returned. Not only as a ghost, but as judgment. As memory. As the embodiment of unresolved grief. As time passes, Beloved's presence grows stronger. She becomes increasingly possessive of Sethe. demanding attention, demanding love, demanding explanations. It feels as though the dead child has returned to ask one impossible question. Why? Why did you kill me? Sethe tries desperately to please her. She gives beloved food, stories, time, affection. Gradually, Sethe's entire life begins revolving around beloved. And beloved consumes more and more of her energy. Paul D senses something deeply wrong. He feels manipulated by beloved, almost seduced and psychologically invaded by her. Eventually, he leaves the house. And with him goes the possibility of a stable future. Now the house belongs entirely to Sethe, Denver, and beloved. A closed emotional system built from guilt and dependency. Sethe stops working. Food becomes scarce. The family sinks deeper into isolation. Beloved grows stronger while Sethe grows weaker. This relationship symbolizes how unresolved trauma can consume a person completely. Instead of processing the past, Sethe feeds it, lives inside it, allows it to define her. And eventually, the past begins destroying her present. Denver is the first to realize that something must change. Throughout the story, Denver has lived almost entirely in isolation. Fear shaped her childhood. But now she understands the house is dying. And if she does nothing, Sethe may disappear completely. So Denver makes a courageous choice. She leaves 124. For the first time, she reaches out to the community. This moment is powerful because it breaks the cycle of isolation. One of the major themes of Beloved is that trauma grows in silence. Healing requires connection. The local women, who once judged Sethe harshly, begin helping the family. They bring food, offer support, and eventually gather outside the house together. Their voices rise in prayer and song, a collective act of resistance against the darkness consuming 124. Then something extraordinary happens. Sethe sees a man approaching the house. For a split second, she mistakes him for schoolteacher. The old terror returns instantly. She charges forward with violent desperation. But this time, the community intervenes. And amid the chaos, Beloved disappears. Gone. As mysteriously as she arrived. No body. No explanation. Only absence. And silence. Beloved works on multiple levels. On the surface, it is a ghost story. But underneath, it is about historical trauma. Beloved represents the millions of lives destroyed by slavery. The memories America tried to suppress. The suffering that refused to vanish. The novel asks an uncomfortable question. Can people truly move forward without confronting the horrors of the past? The answer seems to be no. Sethe spends years trying not to remember. Paul D locks his pain inside a metaphorical tobacco tin buried in his chest. Denver hides from the world. But repression only strengthens the ghosts. Memory must be acknowledged, spoken, shared. The story also explores motherhood in impossible conditions. Sethe's love for her children is overwhelming. But slavery corrupts even love itself. Her desperate act comes from devotion twisted by terror. Beloved refuses to give simple moral answers. Instead, it forces readers to confront complexity, pain, history, human contradiction. And perhaps that is why the story remains so powerful decades later. Because it refuses comfort. It demands empathy. After Beloved disappears, Sethe collapses emotionally. Without the ghost consuming her, she is left facing herself. The guilt. The exhaustion. The emptiness. She begins wasting away in bed. And for a while, it feels as though the story may end in despair. Then Paul D returns. This moment matters deeply. Because unlike Beloved, Paul D represents the possibility of living in the present. Not forgetting the past. But surviving beyond it. He sits beside Sethe and tells her something simple. Something she has never truly believed. That she herself is valuable. Not just her children. Not just her suffering. Her. The statement is revolutionary because slavery taught people they were property. Not human beings worthy of love. Paul D offers the possibility of rebuilding identity. Slowly. painfully, but honestly. And the novel closes not with complete healing, but with possibility. A fragile chance at life beyond trauma. The ending of Beloved is intentionally haunting. The final lines suggest that stories like this are often forgotten, ignored, buried. But forgetting carries danger. Because history repeated in silence becomes history repeated again. Beloved reminds us that trauma echoes across generations. That the past lives inside people long after events end. And that healing requires more than survival. It requires remembrance, community, and compassion. The novel remains one of the most important works of modern literature because it transforms historical pain into emotional truth. Not just statistics. Not distant history. Human experience. And even today, the story continues to challenge readers to confront the legacies of violence and injustice that still shape the modern world. So that was Beloved. A story about ghosts. But not the kind hiding under beds. The kind carried inside memory. Inside history. Inside people. If you enjoyed this deep dive storytelling breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more literary stories, psychological novels, and emotional character explorations. And tell me in the comments, do you think Beloved was truly a ghost? Or was she the physical form of guilt and memory? Thanks for watching. And until next time, keep turning the page.